What people mean when they say tinnitus gets worse at night. Now, it's very common to hear people say that their tinnitus feels worse at night, especially when trying to fall asleep. In this episode, I'll explain what people usually mean by that, why nighttime can change how tinnitus is experienced, and how factors like quiet attention and fatigue play a role. This content is for educational purposes only. When people say that tinnitus gets worse at night, they're often describing a change in perception rather than a change in the sound itself. Night changes context. During the day, there is usually external noise, traffic, conversation, movement, background sound. Even if those sounds are subtle, they provide competition. At night, that competition reduces. With fewer external inputs, internal sounds can become more noticeable. Silence increases contrast. If you imagine a small light in a bright room, it is barely noticeable. Turn off the lights and that same light appears much stronger. The light has not changed, the environment around it has. Tinnitus behaves in a similar way. When the surroundings become quiet, the contrast between silence and internal sound increases. There is also the role of attention. During the day, attention is divided. Work, screens, conversations, tasks all compete for focus. At night, especially when lying in bed, attention often has nowhere external to go. The brain begins scanning inward. In that inward state, tinnitus can feel magnified simply because it is one of the only signals present. Fatigue also contributes. By the end of the day, mental resources are lower. The ability to redirect attention may feel weaker. Tinnitus can seem louder not because it has increased in volume, but because the mind is less able to shift away from it. This is a common experience and does not automatically indicate change in hearing. There is also an emotional component. Night can be a vulnerable time. The day's distractions are gone, thoughts slow down, worries that were pushed aside may surface. If tinnitus has previously been associated with concern, nighttime quiet can reactivate that association. The sound can feel more significant in the absence of distraction. Another factor is expectation. If somebody anticipates that tinnitus will feel worse at night, the brain may become more alert to it as bedtime approaches. That expectation alone can increase awareness. This does not mean the experience is imagined. It reflects how attention and anticipation interact with perception. Psychological changes also occur at night. Heart rate slows, external stimulation reduces, muscles relax. In that reduced sensory environment, subtle internal sounds that were masked during the day may become clearer. The auditory system is not switching off. It is operating within a quiet context. Some people also report that tinnitus seems louder in one specific position, such as when you're lying on one side. Body position can subtly alter blood flow, muscle tension, or how sound is conducted through the head. Small physical changes can influence how tinnitus is perceived, even though the underlying condition remains stable. Importantly, when people say it gets worse at night, they are often describing how intrusive it feels. Intrusiveness is different from intensity. A sound can feel overwhelming in a silent room, but manageable in a busy environment, even if the actual signal has not changed. Distinguishing between those two experiences can reduce fear. Night also removes external reassurance. During the day, if tinnitus feels intrusive, it competes with activity. At night, the absence of activity can make it feel more central. Understand that centrality is context dependent can make it less alarming. There's also the psychological effect of transition. Night marks the end of activity. During the day, even if tinnitus is present, it competes with movement, purpose and structure. At night, that structure falls away. The brain shifts from doing to resting, and in that shift, internal signals can feel more noticeable simply because there is less else happening. For some people, bedtime becomes the first quiet moment they've had all day. That sudden quiet can make tinnitus feel as though it has intensified, even if it has been present at a similar level throughout the day. The contrast between activity and stillness makes the difference feel larger. Understanding that contrast effect can reduce the instinct to interpret nighttime changes as deterioration. Often what's changing is context, not the condition itself. And when morning arrives and external sound returns, that contrast shifts again. It is also common for tinnitus to fluctuate slightly throughout the day. If someone checks it more frequently at night, they may notice variations they would not have paid attention to earlier. Increased monitoring can make changes feel larger than they are. Recognizing these patterns can shift the experience. Instead of interpreting nighttime perception as a deterioration, it can be seen as a change in environment attention and nervous system state. That reframing does not eliminate tinnitus, but it reduces the mystery around it. Tinnitus at night is often about contrast, attention, fatigue and quiet, not necessarily about progression. When the day begins again and external sounds return, many people notice that the intensity feels different. That shift itself shows how contextual tinnitus perception can be. Understanding this relationship between sound and context allows nighttime experiences to feel less threatening. And when something feels less threatening, the nervous system responds with less urgency. That shift in urgency can change how intrusive tinnitus feels. That is over time. As always, these discussions are educational and grounded in lived experiences rather than quick fixes. Thanks for listening to this episode of the David Health Podcast. If you'd like to follow future discussions, you can subscribe for upcoming episodes.